frequency 92.7 3 FM.
It's midday. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from our studio at Adesawe Kanda here in Accra, also live on our numerous affiliates across the country, around the world. We're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the tuning app from the Google Play or Apple iOS Store and listen to us on the go. We're streaming live on Facebook as well. Our handle's 3FM 927. Coming up this afternoon, Ghanaians angry over revelations of planned leasing of Tema Oil Refinery to Torenco Asset Management for some $22 million. We engage civil society groups who want urgent intervention to halt the deal. Also this afternoon, Asin North parliamentary candidate of the opposition National Democratic Congress, James Jachikwesin, accuses Attorney General Godfred Dami of misusing the criminal processes of the court to campaign against him as he demands a review of the ruling which has set a day-to-day ruling or a day-to-day hearing of the criminal case brought against him. We're live to the court where the hearing is expected to begin this afternoon. And much later, Minority Leader Dr. K. Salato Fawcett, he's also been returning to court over his trial for causing financial loss to the state in connection with the infamous ambulance purchase saga. The Attorney General has meanwhile rejected the offer by Big C Trading LLC to refund €2 million to the state. And pretty much later, Vice President Dr. Bawumia takes campaign to 5 constituencies in the Greater Accra region as he intensifies engagement with delegates having filed his nomination last Friday. We have details of these stories and a lot more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM927. Same handles on Twitter as well. 3FM927. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. Let's get into the details. And the Tema Oil Refinery is up in the trends on social media this afternoon following revelations the government is leasing the entity to Torenco Asset Management for $22 million. According to Imani Vice President Bright Simmons, the refinery has been leased to Torenco for 6 years, with the new owners expected to pay $1 million every year as annual rent. Under the agreement, over 8 million barrels of oil is expected to be refined, with extra rent allowance of over $1 million to be paid monthly as well. And the details have resulted in an uproar with many on social media calling out the president and the current energy minister and the government essentially over the deal. I'll take you to Twitter, where a bulk of the criticism of the agreement has come from, and it reads some of the comments. This one from K says that they are leasing Tema Oil Refinery to a private company for 6 years. The private company pays $22 million to government while they make over $700 million. Government is doing this as a solution to its incompetence that has made Tor a corruption hub. Haha, Amagana, he writes. And this one from Sika official as well says privatizing Tema Oil Refinery, a $22 million deal that is expected to turn a whopping $700 million profit for. It begins to mention names that we cannot quite state. And so this one from Leo Kulu says that you people defunding me. The Tema Oil Refinery has been sold a long while ago. It's just that the news is now coming out so Ghanaians can rant for about a week and stop complaining, just like the Achimota Forest case. Nothing here in this country is owned by the state. All of it has been sold. And a lot more. This one from Togwiga, Mr. Saram says, upon Kruma to give us a lengthy lecture explaining why it is good to lease Tema Oil Refinery, just wait. And Matombo the poet says, see what they are doing to the Tema Oil Refinery. I don't know how true that is, but if it's true, we still have people support these people than Vim. more vim. And so just a cross section of the individuals who've been obviously expressing misgivings about the details, and there have been private spaces as well on Twitter, all in relation to this particular conversation, and a lot more are continuing to make comments in relation to it. But just a quick summary of what it is that has been put out as details of the Tema Oil Refinery. And so, in quick summary, according to Brad Simmons, the government has told Ghanaians repeatedly that without expansion of TOR, they would remain structurally unprofitable. Therefore, the country has been told that due to the poor credit history, even TOR's small capacity is not fully utilized, and shutdowns are frequent, leading to production costs of $30 per barrel instead. For the various reasons, citizens have been taxed, and he goes on. But the simple fact in relation to the Tema Oil Refinery and what it is that is public knowledge now is that the refinery will be leased for 6 years. TAM is allowed to refine up to 8 million barrels of oil a year by paying $1 million every year as annual rent. There's also an additional rent of about $1.067 million per month. If TAM refines more than 8 million barrels, it pays $0.5 each for extra barrel. And so he begins to make extrapolations that if the company, Torrenco Asset Management, stretches the refinery to its full limit and refines 16.5 million barrels, it pays 17.2 million in rent, and the sales value of that output will be about $2.148 billion US dollars. And so just brief details as to exactly what has been captured, and we're working the telephone lines to engage Ben Boachi. He's the executive director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, and we will connect with him shortly and provide details for you as to exactly what the case is with the Tema Oil Refinery and the concerns that have been raised by a cross section of Ghanaians. While we wait to do that, let's do politics, because Asin North parliamentary candidate for the NDC, James Echikwesen, he's accused the Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, of deliberate misuse of the country's criminal trial process to campaign against him ahead of the by-elections there. Now, according to the former MP, the Attorney General is engaged in prejudice, which among many things suggests a predetermined outcome of the trial. And Accra High Court last week ruled to hear the criminal charges against Mr. Kwesen be heard on a day-to-day basis, despite arguments from his lawyers. He was campaigning for the by-election at Asinno. Now, according to him, if the court order states, his campaign for the upcoming Asin North election would be severely affected, and his lawyers are expected to move the motion this afternoon. And court correspondent Lord Eduasare will join us on the telephone lines as well with a lot more details as to exactly what is happening. But just to run you through the motion or the suit expected to be filed by lawyers of James Echikwesen this afternoon, and amongst many things, he makes quite a number of arguments, and just picking from point 6, that just point 15, that the said extremely prejudicial and justified and insulting remarks of the Attorney General must be taken in the context of a clear determination of the government of which the Attorney General is a member to disable the accused person who decisively won the parliamentary election for Asin North on December 7 from representing the people of Asin North. Such determination being manifested in the position taken by the Attorney General in the case in the Supreme Court, which led to the need for the by-election in the Asin North constituency. Then the point 16 is one that listeners should take notice of, that the said extremely prejudicial and justified and insulting remarks of the Attorney General and the application thereupon made to this court by the Attorney General is effectively misusing the criminal trial for campaigning against the accused person while seeking to deprive the accused person of the opportunity to conduct his campaign. Lord Edwasare has joined us on the telephone lines for some more, and the indication I get is that Lord is not on the telephone lines with us now, and we'll get some details as to exactly what it is and bring you a lot more details as to exactly what is happening. And what we get to know is that the Kwesi case is currently ongoing, and then on another matter in the court as well has to do with the minority leader whose case has been pending in the court for a while for causing financial loss to the state in the infamous ambulance purchase saga. Lord Edwasare has joined us, like I rightly mentioned. We'll start off from that case brought against the minority leader. Lord, there was a hearing today, and also the Attorney General rejecting the refund by the company which was contracted to procure the ambulances. What happened in court?
Right, Mawuena, thanks for having me. So, today, a subpoena was made for a Stanbic Bank official, specifically the head of disputes resolution, to come and testify in the case involving the minority leader, Ato Forson. No mention was made on the Attorney General rejecting the amount which was quoted by Big C for the payment, because that was more like an in-chamber meeting, if you'd like. So we are still yet to get the details about that. But essentially for today, the subpoena was made of the banking official name Mouse, Henry Mouse. And he was an official who essentially was supposed to, in 2010, was one in charge of the sign of a letter which was sent to the government of Ghana regarding the transaction. And so he was being cross-examined by Ato Forson's lawyers, after which the Attorney General would also cross-examine him. So after the time that I was in court, this was what was happening. But an interesting turn of events happened when the second accused, Richard Jakpa, asked permission to use the bathroom, but because the court was still in session, the presiding judge noted that he had to remain and wait a while since the hearing was almost done for the day. He eventually was made to use the washroom, but when he came back and the judge made them hand him a sanitizer to, rub his hands, he got offended and then fled up in open court, telling the court that he wasn't even allowed to go to the bathroom, and so he was upset. And the presiding judge cautioned him that he was actually in contempt and he would not be allowed to show disrespect to the court. And so next time something like that happened, he would be penalized and he would not be made to disrespect the court in that manner. And so, Mawuena, this is what has been happening in court as far as the Ato Forson case is concerned.
Pretty interesting. The second accused person flaring up over the use of the washroom while the court was ongoing. But we know that the lawyers of James Kwesi are appealing or seeking a review of that ruling last week as to the day-to-day hearing of the case. Has that case been called now? Do we know?
Yes, Mawuena, and I'll be heading there in a bit. As I came out of the Ato Kwesi trial to report on, so I'll quickly dash through the Kwesi. But with regards to that, the presiding judge in the Ato Forson case certainly made some pronouncements which we could relate to the Kwesi case, because she noted that. So essentially, the lawyer for Ato Forson, Dr. Aziz Bamba, was praying the court for an adjournment so that the official from Stanbic Bank will be allowed to get a document which dates back as far back as 2010. the presiding judge was saying that looking at the time frame and how long it takes because of the archive and how long it would take for that document to be brought, she would not accept that request, and so shut it down. And essentially, she noted that it's the fault of the bench for not applying the practicing direction, because according to the court proceedings, essentially when the case or hearing of cases starts, it should be from a day to day, from the start to finish. And so nobody or any witness can be sued to go and look for a document, because if it's a day-to-day thing, you can't let someone go and seek for a document which is God knows how long it's been in. The person has to apply, whether it has to be maybe a week, 2 months, a year, because these things are bureaucratic and they take time. And so because the bench has allowed these things to go on, that's how come every time there's been long adjournments, and it sort of upsets the day-to-day hearing in cases.
Right then, that's my colleague Lord Dwasare in the court for us, providing details as to exactly what's been happening, primarily on the out-of-forcing case in relation to causing financial loss over the ambulance purchase saga. On the James Jachi Kwesin ruling, that case has been called now, and so it's currently pending. There'll be a lot more details for you if you stay with us here on 3FM 92.7. Lord Dwasare, my colleague at the courts. We're taking you to the northern region, where residents of Tamale and its environs are bracing themselves for a looming water shortage in the metropolis following the disconnection of the Dalang head pump by NEDCO. According to the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, the water company owes over 39 million cedis in electricity bills. The Dalang water treatment plant supplies water to residents in Tamale and its environs. A disconnection could lead to serious water crisis in the coming days if power is not immediately restored to the treatment plant. Already, residents have had to endure an ongoing water rationing schedule. Christopher Mako is there for us. He's been interacting with a number of the consumers who are already bearing the brunt of the disconnection exercise. Chris, paint a picture for us as to exactly what residents in the Tamale metropolis are facing.
Yes, so Mawuena, 24 hours after the Ghana Water Company head pump at Dalong in the northern region was disconnected, residents are already bearing the brunt. This morning, areas that are supposed to get water distributed to them are not getting the water sent to them. Now, if you go to the various head pumps in the Tamale metropolis in town,
Chris, the line to you is a bit challenging. If you could kindly reposition for us so that you provide a lot more details.
Can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Yes, so what I was saying is that the areas that are supposed to get water today are not getting water. You go to areas like Chogoya Palsi, Chogo, and they are not getting water today because of the disconnection of the head pumps at Dalong. If you go to the waterworks area in Tamale as well, various tanker drivers who had gone to the place to draw water to supply to other areas to are stranded there because there is no water there to be distributed. So it's a very big challenge, and in the coming days it's going to be even very serious. The people are only fortunate that today it has rained, and so they have some water. Aside that, they were waiting that today the tap will flow for them to get water. Unfortunately, that is not happening.
Is that an explanation from the water treatment plant as to when they can pay off their bills and begin to supply water to the resident of Tamale?
Yes, so according to the public relations officer of the water company here in the northern region, that is a decision to be taken by the Ghana Water Company headquarters in Accra. Every detail as to the how the bills will be cleared is determined, or is going to be determined by the head office in Accra. So they here cannot tell when it will happen, but they are hoping that it will happen in the shortest possible time so that they can supply water to the people.
Just finally, we understand that water situation in the north is low for boreholes and other alternative water sources. So, just briefly, how are residents there coping?
Yeah, so already there is an existing challenge, which is the low water table here in the north. So boreholes are not doing so well. Like I said, the people are only fortunate that the rains are coming, and so that is the only source of water they will have now, aside those who have bigger reservoirs and polytanks who have been able to store water. But facilities such as the Tamale Teaching Hospital and other facilities that depend so much on the water from Ghana Water Company are going to suffer the brunt in the coming days.
Right then, Christopher Marco, my colleague in the northern region, many thanks for providing those details for us. We're returning to politics, this time on the front of the governing New Patriotic Party, and as a number of the the presidential aspirants continue to file their nominations. One of the leading candidates who filed on Friday is not letting down an engagement with delegates of the governing New Patriotic Party. Now, since the weekend, the Vice President, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, has been visiting constituencies within the Greater Accra region to drum home his message as the man who can lead the governing party break day. Today, he's visiting 5 constituencies, all the Ablekuma constituencies within the Greater Accra region. Noble Crosby and is my colleague here on the political desk. He's joined me in the studio with a lot more details as to what we know about the tours in the past and what to expect for today. Crosby, walk us through it. The Vice President has been touring since the weekend and is continuing today as well.
So just the moment the Vice President submitted his nomination forms, which he did not pick up himself but decided to submit himself, the Vice President, if you like, switched, just like the snap of a finger. He just went straight into campaign mode, and then his attention has been in the Greater Accra region. He is touring all the constituencies in the Greater Accra region. We understand today he is visiting close to 4 constituencies in Accra. You mentioned he'll be going to the Ablekuma South constituency, the Ablekuma Central constituency, also Ablekuma North, and then he'll go to Ablekuma West constituency. So he is trying to still work as the Vice President and still, also begin and continue his campaign to become flag bearer of the party going into the 2024 elections. If you notice, all the constituencies he visits are usually those close by. So we're seeing all the Ablekuma constituencies, the north, south, east, and west, he'll be visiting there today. But earlier, the Vice President, he began his campaign long ago when he filed his nomination. Saturday, the Vice President went to Sege in the Sege constituency. He went to Ada. He also went to Ponkatamanso and the Ashaiman constituency. So he realized that they are from a certain enclave and it reduces his times of travel. The characteristic of his visit is the massive show of love and support from party members, although journalists are not allowed to go with the Vice President to
when he meets the delegates.
Yes, to these meetings when he meets the delegates. There's a message that has been saying from insider sources. What the Vice President is saying is that amongst the 11 people who have harbored intentions to become flag bearers of the NPP, it is he that the opposition leader John Dramani Mahama is afraid of. So the Vice President is saying that John Mahama is afraid of him and he's the only candidate that can match Mahama, not the former Trade Minister Alan Chemantin, not the former Greek Minister Mafia Kuto, not any of the others, not even Kennedy Japan. And he says there are issues that come up concerning the performance of the government. Well, he is careful not to berate the Akufo-Addo-led administration because he's part of it, obviously. He says that, the government has done its best, bearing in mind the global economic crisis that came from COVID-19 and the Russian and Ukraine war. So these are subjects that the Vice President is still talking about, and that he's the best person to build on the legacy of President Akufo-Addo if President Akufo-Addo leaves office at the end of 2024. So he says that vote for him. Mahama is afraid of him. If you vote for any other person, it could be a done deal for the opposition, John Dramani Mahama. So these are just a few of the things that the Vice President has been talking about on his tours and his engagements with the delegates. Let me just mention a few times what the what the picking order and the submission of the forms will look like. So in the coming days, we're supposed to see Kennedy Japan submitting his forms. Adainimo is also expected to
I was just going to go to that as to the
So yesterday we saw Kofi Apreku submitting. So just a few of the other names will also be submitting their forms in the coming days. Remember that it ends on Saturday, 24th June 2024.
Right, so Noel Crosbyan at the political desk here providing details for us as to a vice president tour of some constituencies in the Greater Accra region today, and also what to expect from the filing processes of the party's headquarters in the course of the week. Was just staying with politics a while longer, and conversations that continue to loom in relation to the 2024 general elections has to do with the use of the Ghana card as the sole identifier for persons who want to get onto the electoral roll come elections 2024. And the head of Department of the Political Science at the University of Ghana, Professor Ali Duseidu, says Parliament or any individual or groups can take the Electoral Commission to court if the EC still wants to go ahead to use the Ghana card as a sole document to register persons onto the voters' register. In an interview, agrees the use of the Ghana card as a sole document will disenfranchise a lot of Ghanaians in the 2024 elections. There's a lot more in this news desk report.
The Electoral Commission in February 2023 introduced a constitutional instrument which, among others, will make the Ghana card the sole document to register persons onto the electoral roll for the 2024 elections. But on March 31, Parliament directed the election management body to include the guarantor system and open more registration centres. The House, particularly the minority, still stands by its position. Professor Ali Duseidu says there are other means by which Parliament can use if the EC fails to adhere to its proposal.
Constitutionally, the Parliament can also decide to take the EC to court and seek interpretation on the actions of the EC and whether it conforms to the rules of the land. Or even other private citizens or political parties can take the EC to court if they believe that that particular position will not inure to the benefit of the country, if it doesn't fall in line or align completely with our constitutional provisions, especially the right to vote and be voted for, and the possibility that it could disenfranchise people. He expects Parliament and the EC to build consensus on the matter in order to deepen and consolidate the country's democratic gains. It will not be healthy for our democracy if the Electoral Commission and the Parliament of Ghana is on a collusion course. Especially the EC in particular needs the legislature more. The EC has to be able to work with political parties and bring the consensus of all political parties on board moving forward, especially in some of these new reforms that they want to introduce moving into 2024.
That's Professor Ali Duseidu ending that news desk report, and we just end with concerns from security analyst Adib Sani, who's worried about what he describes as an ad hoc approach to dealing with the influx of refugees into the country. And we know that large numbers of asylum seekers have put pressure on food and shelter in the Upper East region and a source of worry for local people. Some sleep in the open, especially during the day, due to the unavailability of homes to accommodate them. And according to Adib Sani, government should develop a roadmap for a comprehensive approach to ensuring safety of food and security.
All right, so the approach or the response to the influx has been so disorganized and so confused in a manner that presupposes we are not expecting them and we've been taken by surprise. But the thing is, and the problem is, by the time when they enter Ghana, by the time relief agencies get to them, a lot of them might have moved towards the southern area or might have moved in with relatives in the area. So I think we need to put the right mechanisms on the ground so at any time they come in, we'll be prepared to receive them.
Security analyst Adib Sani, and that's how we end this afternoon's edition of the bulletin here on 3FM 92.7. Unfortunately, we couldn't connect with energy analyst Ben Boachi, who's also the executive director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, on that top story. There'll be a lot more on that for you, where there's been anger, genuine anger, over revelations of a planned leasing of the Tema Oil Refinery to Torenco Asset Management for some $22 million. We'll get details for you on a lot more of this if you stay with us here on 3FM 92.7. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. The business team, they're up next with the very latest from the world of business.
The TV3 and 3FM Great Expedition is here again. It's much bigger and exciting this time. Experience the breathtaking view of the ever-scenic Kafajato and the spectacular Wuli waterfall. Let's uncover the excitement around these mystical and extraordinary sceneries. Happening on Republic Day, Saturday, 1st July 2023. Come, let's make memories on Republic Day with the Republic Day Reloaded. We head to Kafajato as we hike to the summit. We visit the Wuli waterfall and then we